Hey crafters, today we're going to be showing you guys how to turn this ordinary looking wooden box into something that looks very professional in only a few minutes. So first we're going to start out by doing the borders and edges of the building, and then we're going to move on to doing the walls and windows. Okay, so I noticed that you're placing these blocks all around the corners and the edges of the building. What's the point of doing that?
That's right. So the whole point is definition. So as you saw with the start, this is a plain wood box for all intents and purposes. So I'm trying to add a little more texture to it. So first, starting out with the door, just to make the door pop out a little more. Then in each corner, we're going to build these pillars, and finally loop around the top, connecting all the pillars with those sideways logs. Notice how I'm using two different variations of the log. One is vertical and the other is horizontal. It may seem like a small difference, but when you or someone else is looking at it, it does make a big difference.
So I've noticed that you're putting cobblestone along the floor. What's the point of doing this? Don't we already have enough block variation?
You can really never have enough block variation. Obviously, cobblestone is a very different texture than the ones that we already have, but luckily for us, it is a texture that actually works with these textures that we already have. Just like I mentioned with the horizontal and vertical log placing, these small details of adding different blocks, even very suddenly like I did with the cobblestone, that makes a big difference in the end product.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other ways to change up the texture and design of the building?
Definitely. One of the easiest ways to actually give your buildings more texture might seem pretty obvious, and it's windows. So right now I'm going to build some eye-shaped windows, and I know that might seem strange, but often different shapes and variations on just like a normal square window is what will look best with most buildings. There are exceptions, there always are, but typically you want to do some kind of odd shape.
That's true. Now on the other side, you're making this flat wall, just completely turning it into glass pane. What's the reason for that? What happened to all the unique designs and styles that you had?
Well, glass panes are a little different than glass. One of the great things about them is that they can really present a view. So if you have a house, let's say on top of a mountain, and you really want to showcase that view, there's no shame in making the entire wall out of glass panes. Obviously, I don't suggest that you make every single wall of glass panes, because then it becomes very repetitive. But if you mix one wall of glass pane with other different styles of windows, then it can look really nice and really contribute to the overall look of your house.
That's true. So on this other side, I see that you're using wooden stair blocks as windows. What's the advantage of using these type of blocks than the actual glass blocks that you find in Minecraft?
Obviously, you're getting less view into the room, and sometimes that's an effect that you want. Obviously, it's also a unique way of letting light into a building and being able to see out of it. And it's definitely something that if someone's walking by it, they're gonna suddenly stop and say, oh, that's kind of interesting. And that's exactly what you want when you're building something. You want something that will make people stop and study it for a bit.
Alright, so now you're working on combining all the styles together. But what's to stop all the styles from making a very messy look on the wall?
Well, you bring up a good point. You definitely don't want to have that cluttered feel, and you'll notice that I actually space out the wooden stair windows and the glass pane windows with a column of wood planks. And that's to give those different windows, I guess you could say, breathing room. It's a lot about putting all those styles up there, but still making sure that they have their own space.
So what's the point of making all of these fancy windows and designs instead of just leaving a blank wooden plank wall?
Because that's so plain. Really, if you want to improve your building, and a big part of improving your building is really showcasing something. You don't want someone to just walk by and say, okay, that person built a wood plank wall, so what? Anyone can do that in 5 seconds. You want them to walk by and say, oh wow, look at the different styles of windows they have there, or look at the different blocks that they're able to use. And that's really the path to making your buildings look a lot better.
Well, thanks for joining us on Building Shortcuts, your shortcut to building better.